So tell us the classic story. Man becomes professional footballer, man becomes concussed, man becomes a estate agent. How often have we heard that story? Now, let David left you. Would you mind just saying how the hell you went from that to this?
Well, I must add that Bournemouth was skin in Division 2 at the time, so it wasn't like they were a Premiership team. And actually, there's another estate agent down the road from me who also used to play for Bournemouth, who now works for Winkworth. So it's actually more common than you think.
Yeah. Oh, that's well. We'll have him on next.
Yeah, he should do. Yeah. Good agent.
Good. So, but I take it that was why you were in Bournemouth, though, just because of the football link, yeah?
No, we moved down when I was about 13 from Manchester, not too far away from David. I went to school in Moss Side, which is not the safest of neighbourhoods. So my parents were looking to move, well, actually abroad to Spain, but sort of bottled it halfway and got to school.
Got to the Riviera.
Yeah, and I was playing for Oldham at the time, so I then signed for Bournemouth as a youth player.
Cool. Okay. And so, talk us through again, as David says, what was your route into agency?
So I had 2 job offers. One was at a bigger sort of semi-corporate agency paying peanuts, which was sales. And the other one was lettings, but with a much higher basic. So obviously I went for the money, as most agents do. And I really liked it. I mean, I was working in a call centre before, and I just sort of had this epiphany where I thought, I don't want to be 40 years old with a headset on, just selling insurance. So I'd always liked property and all the location, grand designs, all that type of stuff. And also getting to speak with people face to face is much better than just over the telephone. So yeah. And after 6 months of setting up, working for a letting agency, I got headhunted by another agency to set up a letting agency from scratch, which I did. And I was there for 5 years, thoroughly enjoyed it, had great working environment. The bosses were fantastic. But then after 5 years, a couple of things happened, and I just thought, sod it, I'll have a bash at doing it myself. Naively thought it was easy, and it wasn't, as I'm sure a lot of people.
Katie's your partner, is that right?
Katie's business partner. So she joined the business in 2016. Katie had been working locally for about 20 years. She actually sold my first house as well.
So Ryan, what's the secret to a great partnership?
Lots of communication. I think obviously we've got different skill sets. That always helps as well. Yeah. And
how long have you been in partnership there for?
Been in partnership since 2016, so nearly 4 years.
Oh wow. Okay.
What sort of boss are you then, Ryan? What sort of culture do you drive in the business?
Mr. Positive got a few laughs, I noticed, on the bio, because it's probably not unless it's used tongue-in-cheek, it's probably not the best way to describe me. But I think I'm fair, I'm approachable. I can be a bit moody sometimes, I've been told on more than one occasion, which is why now I sit upstairs above in a separate office away from them all, so I don't bring the mood down too much. But I think it's just because I find it frustrating sometimes, because I know how good the team are, and it's probably a bit like me in football, actually. Managers used to hate me because I had a lot of talent but didn't always give the same effort and consistency. And I'm really passionate about delivering the best possible service. So I'm pretty sort of hard to please in that respect. But at the same token, I think we've got a great culture, great team ethic, lovely to be around. I wouldn't trade them for anyone. So, yeah.
Yeah, they're a really nice team, aren't they? We were talking on the podcast, obviously, to George. Big shout out to him. He's a fantastic.
He'll like that.
Well, yeah, and we were talking about, I was asking specifically again on the culture point there, because the reason we got him on was he was one of the first people when obviously everything was going on, and we were talking about whether there's got to be job losses or furloughing, everything else. And I think he was proactive and came to him and says, look, I don't want to be paid. Don't pay me. Just pay me and my commission and everything else there, showing he was absolutely in the business for the right reasons and in it for the long term. And I think we keep going on about this point. Yeah, by all means have your slogans on the wall that the clients and the team come first, but it so often just falls away, doesn't it, when actually something terrible like this happens.
Yeah, and to be fair, George wasn't alone either, and it was probably going to be what I thought was going to be one of the hardest conversations I had with the team, and it was made much, much better by how well the team responded. Even Vicky and Lettings was like, look, I think if I cut my hours and I can do this, then it'll help the business, and it was just really nice that they cared that much about each other and about the business, that they were prepared to, that Simon Sinek line, lets everyone suffer a little bit so no one has to suffer a lot. And I think that genuinely is what we've done. So
you spoke there actually about Simon Sinek, and I know you're a huge fan. Obviously what we're here today is talking about like hands-on tips as much as anything as well. You when we were having a conversation offline, you were talking about one of the things you've been doing was keeping the team essentially ring ready and not allowing them to get rusty. And part of that process had been picking out, selecting things like select TED Talks, and obviously Simon Sinek's fantastic at that sort of stuff. Just talk us through how you use those tools to help motivate the team.
Well, we've got a WhatsApp group, as I'm sure a lot of agencies have, and we try and post stuff in that. We've been having Zoom quizzes as well. We're actually doing a bit of fun ones this week where we're letting the team host them individually rather than me hosting them all the time. But we've done stuff on like local area stats, our own stats, competitor analysis, all that type of stuff, so that we can try and build a bit of a knowledge bank. So that, yeah, like you said, we're ring ready when we come back to it. The TED Talks are just like, I usually keep them short. I don't think anyone wants to, I'm not expecting them all to be like me where they're like watching an hour TED Talk, but like 10-15 minute little snippets, just to keep their brain engaged really. I've given a few, like some have approached me about book recommendations, which I've given them. But I think as well as driving the team, and you've got to obviously lead from the front, everyone has to be accountable for themselves as well. And I think that's what we try and do, is have a leader culture, so that, it's not always just on me or on Katie. I'd hope that they're doing stuff, learning our 10-point plan, thinking about remembering how they handle our inquiries, all those types of stuff that we're working on prior to COVID. I'd like to think that they're still doing that in the background by themselves as well.
I think you alluded to it there. It was that 10-point plan. Obviously, having a look at your website, you talk about the leader Fox sales system. Is that what
yes.
you want to talk us through that? What that?
Asad's probably better placed to talk about it than I am, since we had a big, shamelessly borrowed, but no, it's just our sales system, and it's been adapted with the help of other great agents like Asad and speaking to obviously Perry Power and a few others. But it is a strategy that we've used with great success over the last few years. I mean, we're consistently the best for achieved asking prices in the area, and I think that is because we do have a process that works, and it's just refining that so that clients know exactly what it is that we do and know that it's different.
So give us a clue. I mean, obviously don't give away the secret sauce entirely, but there's a 10-point plan, that you communicate to vendors and potential vendors?
So we've got our own digital brochure. It's 10 steps. The idea is that we communicate that with clients and let them know and signpost, look, when you instruct us to sell your house, this is what's going to happen. Step one, and walk them through. And each point is pretty vital in the process to enable a successful sale at the outcome.
I've noticed that on your website, you've got some, most agents' websites, the testimonials, to be honest, most of the people have probably passed away because they've been on there that long. You do keep those really up to date and relevant. And I love you have real laser focus in terms of honing into some of the key numbers and, a real statistical view on things like percentage of obviously a price achieved, time on the market, stats there, drawing particular attention when you've been given a remit by the client, if it has to be a quick sale, well, how, not in generality, but exactly what you've delivered. Does that approach work well for you then in terms of transparent?
Yeah, I think it does, because I don't think a lot of agencies do it. And I think that's where clients want to know what's going to happen. And every sale's different, every client's expectations are different, every client's circumstances are different. But if you can say, look, when you use us, this is what you can expect. On average, we achieve this. On average, our sale takes this much. On average, it takes us this many days to exchange contracts. On average, 9 out of 10 sales go through first time. If we can set up that, then again, I just think it's one, being super transparent. And I'd love it if the industry just published everything like that. And it just makes it really obvious, because for some people, the highest price not be the number one driver, and that's completely fine. But at least they can choose which metric that's important to the client.
Do you think that one of the things we've spoken about it a few times on the podcast and other interviews about, I think that clearly the likes of Purple Bricks on the online agents caught agents out. And whilst traditional agents found it, they knew they were better than Purple Bricks in so many different areas, what they weren't able to do was communicate it effectively. And I think what you've got there is a direct response to that. We vaguely know we're better. Sorry, we know we're better, but we can't talk about it. You've been very, very quick, very accurate, and said, look, they only, the fall throughs are X, Y, Z. The time on the market stats are this. And at least the public can understand those raw stats, can't they, without getting into sort of the vagaries of stuff.
I've been in mastermind groups, and the host has said, give me 3 things that make your agency different. And honestly, it's shocking. We're honest. Oh, great. Shouldn't we all be? So
Appraisals.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's like so generic. And I'm thinking, God, if we can't differentiate ourselves, how is the public supposed to differentiate? So another thing that we've done is we've got a better off calculator on our website. So we can actually quantifiably say to a client, if you use us, this is how much better off you'll be. And it's quantifiable. And again, that might not be every client's driver, but at least for those that it is, we're able to actually...
I would urge everyone to have a look at your website there. That in particular, it's like catnip to me, calculators, because, they're impossible not to put in your own stats and everything else there. But the key thing is allowing the person to essentially assess that themselves, isn't it? That's really vital.
And I think then it's how we use that as a competitive advantage. So I've been reading that book, Creating a Competitive Advantage. I think it's Jamie Smith, but great book, and it's really good, and it makes you have that laser focus about, right, if a client asks why us, how are we going to answer that? What are the 3 or 4 things that we do that are truly and quantifiably different, and that we can use to say to clients, this is the reason that you should use us? Because integrity, honesty, or good service, it's just bollocks, isn't it?
Ryan, why do you think that? I mean, you're obviously a minority in terms of the agents that come forward with those stats. Why do you think so many agents haven't been as transparent as you are?
I don't know if they track them. I mean, I'll be honest, the first sort of 2 years of business, I didn't track them. It's only when you start hanging around with, different people and better quality agents that it sort of rubs off on you, and you start to think, I always used to think KPIs was some corporate bollocks, and I thought I sort of resisted it at every opportunity. But now I'm like, it's a really good way of measuring our own success, but also our client metrics as well. If we can say to our client, when you sell with us, your days, you're not going to be in the market for months and months and months, or we're going to achieve what we say we're going to achieve, or 9 out of 10 are going through. That's a really nice thing to be able to say, and it's a real nice thing for the client to know what they can expect from us, because I just don't think they know what to expect. I genuinely think that when someone thinks they put the house in the market, most of them think that it's just going to sell, and they don't realise about how much, how many days on the market it's going to be. And so it's about educating them to understand the importance.
Things are like black magic, aren't they, to the public still, really?
Yeah. Well, I think we've got a trust issue in the industry, perhaps, and whether that's right or not, who knows? But I just think the more transparent we can be as an industry, and we don't have to be number one. We're not number one on every stat we use, like days on market. We're not always number one, but we'll still show it. And then we can say, look, we're not number one on this aspect, but this is what we're going to do to try and, remedy it. This is our new marketing strategy for houses and stuff. So again, it just makes it more transparent, and it shows that you are honest rather than just saying it.
But I notice you take that open approach all the way through, even through to the calls to action. Is it called advisory meeting rather than appraisal? Or
Book an advice meeting. Yeah, again, that was borrowed.
Shall we just but let's just say the people who are watching this, I'm not going to say I'm not borrowing these ideas.
Right, Ryan, why don't you just tell us what you've not stolen from someone?
Should we just cut it? I don't think there won't be much to talk about. But I think that's the great thing, isn't it? Is that, Tom, if you surround yourself by good agents, then you get good ideas, don't you? So that's one thing that I think is one of my strengths. Is that
I think for me, that's part of the answer to the question. I think that because there's this sort of paranoia amongst agents of people sort of copying their model or their processes, the ones that thrive seem to have kind of cast off all that paranoia, and they don't mind people sharing their ideas. And
I generally don't mind. I think if we can create an environment where the customer experience gets better and the quality of agency gets better, the clients will respect us more and pay us more. I mean, you only have to look at Australia. If we can drive the standard of agency up, people will recognise what we do and they'll pay more for it. So I just think this sort of close-knit sort of keep everyone else away, not talking, not communicating, not helping one another. I just think it's massively counterproductive, to be honest with you.
So we were on the ICG webinar that I hosted magnificently yesterday. and one of the things that we were talking about was ancillary services, and that we really probably shouldn't have got you on because you
I did think that afterwards. Yeah, I did think that afterwards. Bit of a masterstroke having me on there since I'm a bit anti-referral fee. But
yeah, that was the bit that I'm getting to. I suppose the tough question is, why do you hate agents that take ancillary fees?
I don't get on a moral high horse about it at all. I just really want transparency. Okay. And for me, it's about looking yourself in the mirror and thinking, do we always look after the client's best interest first? I've mentioned it to the team several times. Now the sort of shit hit the fan when we were in lockdown. We've got people before profit above on our board, right where we sit. Are they just words or do we mean it? And I think that's what it comes to with ancillary services. I'm not saying that you can't make money. I'm not saying that we've never taken a penny, but I think it's just about being transparent with the consumer, with our clients, and saying, we're recommending these people. We think they're brilliant. They do pay us a fee if you go ahead. And I've got no problem with that. I just think it's the backhanded nature of it, which doesn't help our reputation.
You'd prefer to focus on just the main fee and try and get that up to what you figure is a fair and reasonable amount.
Yeah, and I'd rather recommend someone because I think they'll do a good job, not because they're lying in my pocket, and that they're going to add to that client experience and provide a great service. Now, that's not to say there can't be win-wins and referral fees, and I'm not, getting on a moral high horse, but I would much rather always make a recommendation because I think it's in the client's best interests, rather than because I think I'm going to get paid. And as soon as one supplier pays you and another doesn't, I think there's a natural motivation to start pushing them there, and I just want us to be really client focused.
So typically, Ryan, where will you be collecting a referral fee? So which suppliers do you?
Rarely any. I think the mortgage broker pays the team for referrals, but they go to the team more than to us. But apart from, I think there's one mortgage broker we've got an affiliation with, but apart from that, we don't. And to be honest with you, mortgage broking is something that I want to bring in-house anyway. I was having a great chat with Chris Holroyd, another great agent, about how he sets his financial services business up, Love Financial. And I think that's something that I really, really want to do because, again, we can control the client journey, and we'll have our own sort of open, transparent, honest way of doing it, and we can extend that to the mortgage side of things. But no referral fees on conveyancing, other bits and bobs.
Give us a flavour then, Ryan. What's the average fee in your area, and what do you get on average?
Our average fee has actually dropped a little bit, but I think it's about 1.2%.
What would it be, 1.1 in your area or lower?
No, yeah, it's lower than 1%. I'd probably say now. Yeah. Our average prices are high though. I think our average price is about 354. That's pretty middle of the road. I mean, obviously in sandbanks they go up to millions and millions, and that's not too far from us, but that's not really our market. But yeah, I think there's definitely been downward pressure on fees for a lot of other agency, and that's why I think you need that differentiator. I know it's cliche, but in the absence of difference, people will shop on price, won't they? So you need to have a difference.
So you say that yours has crept downwards ever so slightly. Is that sort of in reaction to competitors' fees, or did you just find the public resistance above that?
No, I think it's probably because I don't, last year, the team will say it, I was driving fees, like just saying, like, if someone doesn't choose you, it's not because of your fee. It's because you didn't prove you were different. And I was banging the drum all the time with everyone. And I'd always try and get, the fee myself that I think we deserve. And if I didn't get it, it was because I know my pitch wasn't good enough. And I think there's, if your pitch is poor, then that's why you drop your fees. If your pitch is good and you've got a differential and a genuine reason for clients to use you, the fee doesn't really matter. So to be honest with you, I probably just lost focus in terms of drumming that, beating that drum again with the team. But yeah, that's something that we'll definitely pick up post lockdown, where we look at that again. In fact, we might even go down fixed fee route. I've been looking at like having 3 options: essential plus, and premium, and then let the clients choose which bits they want, and just having a fixed fee structure. I'm going to sound it out with some clients and see what they think, but I think that might be.
Do you think the fixed fee structure is always? I've got some competitors that have always done fixed fees, and for us, I think if the client goes to bed at night and they worry about whether or not you fought for that extra 10,000 or that extra 5,000 for them, if you've got a fixed fee structure, then they know, well, David earns the same regardless of how hard he tries. I always thought that sort of percentage commission-based structure sort of gives you that, it takes away that conflict of interest altogether.
And I think that's why we'll consult our clients. Rather than thinking what's best for us, we'll speak to clients and see what's best for them. I completely get that. I mean, I think performance-based pay is the best way to do it. And whether you have a lower fixed rate and then a percentage of anything achieved above a certain level, for me, that is the best pricing strategy ever, because you know that you're absolutely aligned with the client to get the maximum price. But I don't think clients are there yet in terms of understanding it. And I do think, if anything, Purple Bricks has shown us, sometimes they like simplicity.
Yeah.
And also we could get around the fixed price issue by saying that we achieve the best price. So I think we could negate that pretty easily anyway.
So tell us a little bit. We've got some of the questions from the viewers. They're asking. Emmeline asked, tell us a little bit about the community groups that you've set up.
Katie set up a page called We Love Local BH14. It's a community page. We've actually painted it on our office window during lockdown, so people walking past can hopefully see it, join it.
Got rid of the right move badge.
Sorry?
Got rid of the right move badge.
Yeah, we don't have that, funny enough. Yeah, so it's a community page where we share lots of information about local businesses, trying to support local businesses. One of the things I love about where our office is in Ashley Cross, there's a high number of independent businesses. No Costa, no Starbucks. It's all, small independent businesses. So we created the group primarily to help support them, promote their businesses during lockdown. And yeah, just be there for the community. I mean, we are a very community-focused agent. My kids go to local school. Katie's kids go to local school. George, his 2 brothers go to local school. We're all pretty local to the office. We walk the same streets that our clients do. So, it makes sense that we try and do stuff for our community as well. You've got something similar as well, I know, David, haven't you?
Yeah, so we've got that set up. And again, we borrowed that idea from one of the industry's best, a friend of mine, Oliver James.
Oliver.
And Luke as well. Luke did Love Odeby.
We Love Odeby, I think.
And I think, it's a tremendous thing because it allows you to stay. It's perfect for now because it allows you to stay in front of your clientele without being too salesy. And in fact, as an agent that runs one of those groups, you have to curb your natural inclination, which is to sell. And you have to be a little bit more human and you have to be a bit more helpful. So one of the fantastic things that has happened locally is that our valuer, who in one of the areas, who obviously isn't able to go out and value anymore, he's baking cakes. And we've got any number of old women and men and children, you name it, they're all tuning in to watch this guy bake cakes every day. So it's just a way of supporting the community. And it works.
We've got a local singer doing a gig in our office tomorrow for VE Day as well. So socially distancing, adhering, but yeah, he's going to have the little rainbow that we painted on the window behind him.
You don't want to get bobbed in, do you? The problem with Luke's one is love Odeby sounds like a condition. It's not,
there is a cure.
Exactly. We got Marcel Rocco on. He said hello to you, by the way. He loves your rap page. And then what does rap stand for again? That's where all the testimonials are, isn't it?
Recent achievement page. I think that was Peter Knight inspired. Yeah.
You really are good at stealing.
Oh, I'm so good. I'm from Manchester. What do you expect?
You're returning to your really
Moss Side education.
Yeah.
So, Ryan, if you could turn around to your, when you started out agency, and obviously you've moved on, and we touched briefly on sort of partnership, which it's never easy. It's like a marriage; you need to work at it constantly. But in terms of all the lessons that you've learned from day one to now, if you could go back in time and give yourself when you were setting up that first agency, if you could give yourself one piece of advice, what would it be?
I'd have got help sooner. I think just because I was doing a lot of the sort of work stuff, being a neg and a valuer, it's completely different to running a business. I mean, you just wear so many hats. I mean, sorting out the website, the IT, the phones, everything. And I just think I was vastly underprepared for what it was like running a business. And the differences are absolutely huge. And now I probably enjoy the business side of it more than the agency side. But I think I would have just said, go and learn about business first. Just because it's a bit like a good chef doesn't make a good restaurant, does it? And a restaurant owner, and I think it's the same with an agent. Just because you're a good agent doesn't make you a good agency owner. So yeah.
So George has just jumped in on Facebook with saying, "You said not employ me." That was that's the one piece of advice you should have taken.
Well, you know what? A lot of people wanted George out the door when he first joined. I had to bat his corner a lot. Yeah.
Does he know that?
Believe it or not. Oh yeah, he knows it. Oh,
he knows it now.
He definitely he's not telling. You know what? But it's funny because again, when he worked for different agencies, they were very more like your stereotypical agents, and the way that they did things was very, very different from ours. And we are very much a relationship-based agency. Long-term, hold hands with the clients, always do it. And the agencies that George worked for beforehand were very transactional. So to get someone from being transactional to relationship, it's a little bit of a challenge. It's a real challenge. But I tell you what, he's, especially towards the end of, middle towards the end of last year, absolutely was smashing it. And I think he's on a great path now.
He says you're breaking GDPR rules by telling that story. So good luck with that. Anyway.
GDPR's a load of bollocks as well. Do you remember when we were doing those seminars? And everyone's like, oh God, we're going to have to do this. I was getting spammed left, right, and centre the day after.
But does it not?
Normally from you, Whaley.
But the aftermath of GDPR for an estate agent, has it not made managing your database? Has it made it more efficient, or has it made it more of a nightmare?
I don't think it's really changed, to be honest with you. They contact us wanting to have property updates. We ask them, can we let you know about properties, which we did beforehand, and keep in touch, really. I definitely think we need to overhaul our inquiry system. It's just, you can get a bit overloaded, with it. And I think...
You talk about that, you're a big fan of Olivia, aren't you? Do you want to just talk us through how that's helping you?
Yeah, I think Sashay's changing, actually, the structure of it now. But I think that was... What I loved about it is, again, coming back to the KPI aspect, I like to be able to tell people what's going to happen. So if you have a system that's consistent 24/7, and I can say to you, Simon, if you sell your property with me, I can guarantee that every lead is going to be dealt with within 10 minutes, 24/7.
Yeah.
It's just being able to tell them that and then being able to deliver it. And I think that's what Olivia was good at, is giving you the scale to be able to offer a really good SLA consistently. We can do it once or twice.
Woolfenden of Northfields, he ran a campaign last year that what route into the business, whether it was email, text, or phone, they would respond back within 15 minutes, and I love that.
It's fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I think Asad's got something similar. I think that's his SLA. I think he sort of says to clients maybe an hour, but they aim for 15 minutes. Callwell, I think, is another a bit of tech that enables you to do that. So there's lots of solutions out there. But I just think clearly response time is important. And I just want to be able to have a system and a process where we can deliver it consistent. I can just tell them that's what's going to happen.
I mean, interesting that the GDPR point, because of course you're quite right. The irony of GDPR was at no stage in our lives have we been bombarded by email from people telling us they wanted to consult on GDPR. Was it, previously? But it feels like it was this, another millennium bug, wasn't it? For people to
100%. But I always thought it would be because they talk about the £20 million fines. They can't fine me 20 million. I ain't got it. There's all this scaremongering, but I think that fear is a great seller, isn't it? So I think that's the thing, and I think estate agents are quite easy to sell to. So I think that the combination of the two was quite.
Talking about fear for a second, we touched on it earlier, but we also discussed it, I think, on the podcast a while ago. But you've come off Rightmove now, haven't you?
No,
you haven't. It's back on.
Yeah, no, we gave notice. We had the rep Paul Scott, our local area manager, call us up. Pretty much. No, I think we've come to some agreement. It was on a rolling contract. I think we need to decide with our clients what they want. For me, as I've said before, I wasn't a big Rightmove basher. The cost per lead is still cheaper than the other providers. We've given notice to Supplier. We're off Supplier. And given notice to on the market, so we're not going to be on the market. So it will just be Rightmove, and we'll see how things go.
I think that's the key then, really. The one thing that I've always felt that, on the market didn't obviously take down. In fact, it strengthened Rightmove when it happened. The one thing it proved to me categorically was that you don't need to be on multiple portals there because, is that what you're seeing now?
The research that we showed was that people go into Zoopla to do the research and go onto Rightmove to actually search for the property. And I think the UX from a Rightmove is much better than Zoopla. But it's weird because I think you can get most of that data actually on Rightmove that Zoopla offers. But I just think it's how they've been positioned. Zoopla with the smart campaign, smart and all the utility bills and all that sort of stuff. And Rightmove's been find you're happy. So it's just, I think actually people, there's a big crossover for the people that use them. And for me, Rightmove has consistently delivered the best ROI. I know a lot of people won't like to hear that and want to see Rightmove fall, but the cost per lead is. Do
you tightly manage that? Do you tightly measure it and manage it?
Yeah, I think you have to measure all and the great thing about it is you can actually measure it, and it depends on how you want to measure it, whether it's cost per lead, cost per offer, cost per sale. You can do all that. You can't really do it with paper advertising and everything else like we when we first started.
So what are you doing? Are you doing that manually on Excel? Or are you doing it out of your CRM system, or you?
Yeah, so we can export it and repick the sources, and then cross that with how many offers, and then we can work out the cost per lead, but also cost per offer as well.
I suppose technically I should know that about that software package, shouldn't
I? Well, yeah. You never ever give me a demo anyway, did you? You just sort of fob me off.
Let me jump in on that point then, because Brian's just asked the question, doesn't Jet give you autoresponders, Ryan, just on that lead point before?
I don't think Jet does give autoresponders. We've not got autoresponders. Have you, David? You're in Jet as well. Auto brings the data in to as internet registration, so you don't have to duplicate the data entry. But you don't have autoresponders. Autoresponders is something we're going to create, though, for sure.
There was certainly a tool. I can't remember what its name was. It was another
Boomerang, I think. Was it?
Yeah. Well, Boomerang was the
home flow. Yeah.
But it was a very similar tool to it, and just did it. But it was a bit more than just the old autoresponder you get out of Outlook. It actually teed up some similar properties and was quite.
Apparently, I think you can have Boomerang as a standalone product nowadays.
You can.
It is a shame that is missing from Jet, because it's the one when those inquiries come in from Rightmove or wherever they're coming in from. Very often it still needs some work, doesn't it, in terms of where narrowing it down.
We're working on that. Yeah, we're working on that. That's definitely one of the parts of the business that we need to improve massively. I think as the industry as a whole, we need to improve massively.
So if I were to walk into your office, I've seen photos of it. It's quite sort of funky and modern. I think you've all sat around one massive kitchen table there doing your work. If I were to call you out to the house to value it, are you guys sort of are you formal, informal? Do you have any sort of structure in that respect?
Yeah, I mean, we're obviously implementing the 10-point plan now, but our market appraisals are structured. A lot from the Josh Vegan type of stuff, where it's question-based listings, discussing what your situation is, what type of marketing they like, what's their goals. And it's very much about just like Spanish Inquisition, really. Ask them as many questions as we can before we give them a prescription of what we think we should do. I think from my own experience, we do a lot of market research. We use the Omdel to do competitor analysis and stuff like that, and we find that a lot of agents just talk about themselves a lot. And the truth is, the clients don't care about us. They care about themselves, and rightly so.
They want to spend time talking about their journey and what they're trying to achieve.
It's their move, isn't it? It's not our move; it's their move.
I like, by the way, David. I like the way you sneered then as you said that. Your love of the great unwashed out there is fantastic.
I listen. I spend most of my working life in somebody's living room, trying to work out what it is that drives them and motivates them. And sometimes, I mean, there are horror stories where it just goes terribly, terribly wrong. But mostly, everybody wants the same thing, and there are some people when you get through the door, they just want it to be over as quickly as possible. I'm not talking about my valuation necessarily, but they're talking about the sales process, that it's a pain and they just want it gone. And there are some people that don't mind that they will spend 12 months on the market if it means that they get an extra $2,000 in their pocket. So yeah, it's very different.
For the pair of you here, obviously coming out of this, there's going to be a lot of, regardless of anything else sort of medium term, there's going to be a lot of pent up demand, isn't there? We're going to see a lot of that I need to move extremely quickly, aren't we?
I think so.
No.
You don't think? Oh, okay. Well,
do you not think that people being stuck at home in the houses with
oh yeah,
kids?
But wanting to move and being able to move are sometimes the two different things. I think it depends a lot on employment figures and access to mortgage funds. On the basis that those two things are all right, then I think the transactions will be up. But I look, people always want to move. They'll always have babies, get divorced, die, relocate with jobs. There'll always be reasons for people to move.
This is one of those life events, though, where obviously it's going to then give people some sort of impetus to move afterwards. But I think what makes this slightly different is that because we've had this lockdown situation, all those jobs that you normally want to do before you put your house on the market, to tidy up the bathroom, the kitchen, whatever it may be, people are actually doing those right now. So the houses look better than ever before. So I think there will be opportunities out there for agents.
There's always opportunities though, David, isn't there? If you look at some of the best estate agency businesses, they were set up in recessions, weren't they? So I think there's always opportunities. And I think, again, it comes back to just listening to what your clients want and offering them good advice on that basis. But I definitely think there'll be more transactions. Yeah. I just don't know whether it'll happen. It depends on how lockdown comes out, how it's phased. I don't think it'll necessarily be like a switch. I think it'll be a gradual momentum.
A lot depends on mortgage funding and particularly.
Yeah.
It's a bit worrying they're talking with such negativity as usual, the banks, aren't they? I mean, they just came out, was it the Bank of England came out again today and was talking about the worst obviously figures for 300 years. That's really not needed, is it? In terms of talking ourselves.
I think you can just. The media has such power these days, don't they? And social media has sort of exacerbated it. But I think you can also talk yourself into doom and gloom. Clients often ask me, do you think it's a good buy, or what do you think it'd be worth in a few years? I'm like, you've not even bought it yet, and you're already worried about what the price is going to be when you've sold it. And I think people need to realise it's still their home first in most cases. It's still going to be the place that they're going to bring up the children or, spend most of their waking hours. And I think, borrowing is so cheap. Just get on with it,
If let's say it goes to plan and they look at this phased approach, what are you going to do to sort of prepare for it?
Obviously waiting on for Sunday, aren't we, to see what Boris says, but I think we'll gradually start to bring the team back that have been furloughed. Certainly won't all be at once. We'll have to phase that in and just see what the demand's like, really, because that is the thing, which, you know, is like the market has paused and now it's going to be back open. It's just waiting to see what happens. Our inquiry levels are down, but that's because there's no new listings. Our calls are down, but that's because there's no new listings. I think we've got about 12 properties that we need to launch, I think. So, you know, we've got a lot of properties.
Have you been holding those back?
Yeah, yes, yeah. And I was having a chat, really, because Mars was saying don't hold them back, put them on Rightmove, but obviously he's clearly biased about that. But it made me laugh because the Rightmove stat has always been the first 2 weeks is when your property gets the most exposure. Well, if the first 2 weeks is when we get exposure and I can't do a viewing, then I'm not sure that I want to be releasing it. But no.
You've had some real success with a tool that I invented. I didn't invent it. A video ask.
There's another one that I borrowed.
So did I. But you genuinely, and I think you were quite blown away by the response of that. So just for people who know, it's a very simple app that sits on your phone. You send out a video by recording, and you get a response straight back, and it's as simple as that, delivered by text message, WhatsApp, or email. You've started doing it. Do you mind just talking about how you've been using that? And also, just as a follow-up, do you see that being a key part of the business's makeup when you're back for good?
Yes, and yes. We use it for lettings at the moment. I think the commitment level for lettings is obviously much lower, and I think people are happy to commit to lettings properties on the basis of a virtual tour, which we use Matterport for as well. Just started using that, and also the sort of more engaging video ask. But, you know, we were having obviously this chat before about video ask, because I just could not see that. Obviously, everyone's on Zoom quizzes left, right and centre and house party apps and everything else. But I couldn't see that clients would engage with it in the same way that we use video. But I'm happy to be proven wrong so far. You know, we've done a video ask to clients walking them around the property, and people are replying by video saying, thanks very much for showing me around.
They were a bit more than that. They were enjoying it. You could clearly see they had smiles on their faces as they were doing it.
Well, getting a video from me, what's not to like?
Ex-Man United youngster.
Oh, I didn't say that. You might recognise me from... No, I didn't say that. Yes, but it was good, wasn't it? I mean, you've seen the videos. It was really good. And you know what's great is to be able to share that then, you know, with permission to the landlord as part of their application process. And the landlord's like, wow, this is amazing. I feel like I've met them, which seldom used to happen even before lockdown. So I think it's a real good thing. We'll use it as part of our probably sneak peek prior to launch process, where we meet the photographer at the property. We do a quick walk around saying this is going to be coming to the market. Have you got any questions about it before it goes live? And I think we'll use it. I think that's how we'll use it as part of our strategy. We're going to use Matterport, I think, now much more, certainly for lettings, but probably for sales as well. And I think, you know, I think people might be hesitant about physically viewing properties still during this phased approach, and to be able to give them that is better, especially if you're talking about limiting the number of viewings. We want to do everything we can to furnish them with as much of possible information to know, yes, this is a strong possibility, or no, it's not for us.
Are you thinking about PPE yet?
Yeah, I've got a friend, luckily, that's just bought loads in, so we'll be able to use him.
And is that something that so let's say you're going out to, I mean, none of us really know how valuations are going to take place or what the guidance is going to be, but do you envisage a situation whereby the better agents are going to turn around to the owners of the house and say, look, we're coming around on Wednesday, we're going to drop you off some PPE, we'll drop you off gloves, masks, whatever.
Depends how much it costs, David, doesn't it? It might bankrupt us. If the NHS can't afford it, I mean, I don't know.
It's a great opportunity for branding.
Funny enough, the team mentioned that. Are we going to get branded PPE? We might be lucky to get any.
I think there's a gap in the market for somebody that used to be in a, CRM, bit more time on his hands these days. You could get Kerfuffle branded. Yeah. Kerfuffle branded PPE.
That's PPE.
Look at his hair. Used to be the best hair in the industry. Look at it.
Ruined.
You didn't know it. So apart from obviously mine and David's, what podcasts are you listening to at the moment?
Listening to, well, Stephen Brown's does this great lunchtime learning on SJB Consultancy. That's really good. I'm listening to, I've got Audible, so I listen to loads on there, to be honest with you, rather than podcasts. I've never been a massive podcast person. I prefer the Audibles. I'm listening to Ken Robinson at the moment, who's amazing.
It's a great one, isn't it? Just to get the annual license for that, and whatever it is, 30 odd books or something.
Yeah, you just get a free couple of credits each month. Yeah, brilliant. Love it.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And we touched on technology there. What else has caught your eye? There's a new CRM coming that I'm excited about, but I can't talk about.
You can't talk about that, can you?
Can't talk about that. Sorry, but I'm super excited about it. You know, I think the industry has been crying out for a CRM that you know that has more flexibility, can more functionality, more digital, and yeah, I'm excited about that one coming. But I mean, there's loads of good tech. I mean, I'm doing more lettings at the moment, and good Lord, it's brilliant. I mean, you use Good Lord as well, don't you?
We love Good. We love it. It just cuts down the amount of times that you have to see somebody during that transaction. It's fantastic.
Yeah,
fantastic. So
does that mean you will deviate then to almost certainly look at the depository, Christian Byfield's one for the end?
Had a demo with Christian. Yeah, we need to transfer with the DPS at the moment, and Christian integrates with the TDS. So we're looking at transferring that over. But yeah, I love that as well. I mean, that is the ball ache of all ball aches, dilapidations. I mean, that has got to be the worst job in the entirety of it. So anything that can help that is.
By being a supplier, mate, we've got to deal with you.
Ryan's a pleasure to deal with, I'm sure, right?
He's lovely, he is. But what do you think about that new breed of PropTechs? I suppose stage one was PropTechs, was your your EPITs, all the old CRM providers. Stage two was a lot of very talented techies who didn't know their arse from their elbow in terms of the industry. And I think phase three is quite interesting now, because it is people like Christian who have felt that the current systems don't do what they need to. People like Kai.
Yeah, Area's fantastic, isn't it? That Kai's got. Yeah, that's really, really good.
I think it's a really exciting thing, because actually, we've got the, I'll still call them NetMC just because I refuse to call them Agentos or whatever they are. But we've got them on. They were the first ones really to start going down that route with open APIs, platforms to integrate. But pretty much everyone now, from Repit, MRI and everyone else, I won't mention Desres because I know that just sets you off as but
both of us, me and David, the spinning wheel of death.
That really though opens it up, doesn't it, to agents to they don't need too much techie skills then to actually create some quite tight modules that will increase.
You can plug into it as all, and that's what we need. People like Tenor are doing it, where you can join the dots up. But that's my biggest frustration is I've got like 27 tabs open all day, and I think you just need like one key thing that pushes the information backwards and forwards. I mean, obviously mentioned AGMS, the accounting side of things for me from a letting point of view, absolutely fantastic. But if I can get that and Good Lord to talk, that'd be even better. But
are you using their agent pay system?
I was speaking to Jez about that a couple of days ago, but I'm going to be. I was having a demo with Josh about the open banking, which works really well as well.
Yeah, no, he's a big fan of it, I think.
Yeah. But I do love Agent OS for that. I mean, Glenn's fantastic, isn't he? Always trying to push it forward and develop. And
to me, they seem to be the one company that you don't need to ask to integrate with something. They will approach you and say, "Look, we're thinking of integrating with this. Will that work for you?" Or so. Yeah. They seem very open.
Most forward-thinking CRM at the moment, I think, for sure, aren't they? I mean, polar opposite to Repit in that sense, aren't they? So
that Amy is called a 10 out of 10 advert, all right?
So we've got Assad seems to have bounced onto here.
I see. Champ. Go on, what's he saying?
It was a bit like Candyman. You said it 3 times and he appeared, and all he says is, "It was Ryan's beautiful face." I'm not quite what made him do that. Go on, tell us.
Pushing me, I think. Keeps messaging me.
Right, Ryan, I think that's really kind of you. Thank you for sharing your experiences. Unless anyone else, please do jump up if you were going to finish it in a second. So if you want to ask him, just unmute yourself and jump out. I'll have a quick check on Facebook as well. We have had some questions from the team on Facebook. We've got Matt Hobband and Mark Bevan. Mark Bevan's asked, what's that Foot Stadium picture in the background? And of course...
Oh, God. That's FA Youth Cup. I tell you what, I don't like to brag, obviously.
Yeah.
I bossed that game.
Well, just stop talking because it'll come up there. What I like is that's actually got Getty Images on, that's pretty impressive. That's bucket list stuff there. I obviously didn't pay for it. I'm not paying for. And he wanted to know, by the way. So he said, which stadium was it? Was Matt Hobband that seems to think it's Vicarage Road? Is it?
Loftus Road.
Matt, there you are. You're useless. Black mark there.
Yeah.
We've just got one more here. Let's have a look.
No, I don't think we can ask that question, but
yeah,
I can answer it. I think Ryan's a 10.
Well, that bombshell. Ryan, thank you very much for joining us. I hope everyone found that useful. We'll have some more people on giving out their honest appraisal on their businesses now. Do have a look at his website. It's fantastic. And I'm sure, I guarantee that...
I should mention Alex Evans for that, shouldn't I? He'll only leave...